Darktide's latest patch has given me the ability I've wanted for years, yelling at people to make them play better, and it actually works. Let me explain. Darktide's release was quite rocky. While it had solid gameplay with amazing music and beautiful map design, it suffered from three major problems that I like to call the 3 C's: classes, content, and crafting. It also has performance issues and bugs too, but I didn't want to have to say the 3 C's and performance issues because that really doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. The class overall update addresses the class issue in Darktide and does so in a phenomenal way. Before, the talent tree for every class was very lackluster with limited options, and many of the different talents you could select felt like they should honestly be base kit. One example is letting the Ogryn's box of grenades explode. That's right, before this patch you actually needed to dedicate a whole perk to just letting a box of grenades explode. The lack of variation, coupled with the fact that some perks were just outright better than others, ultimately meant that most people ran the same builds, and there wasn't really much of a reason to experiment. Adding on to this, the Veteran class was the strongest class by a large margin, leaving behind the Ogryn and Zealot classes, not to mention that Psychers, which were basically space wizards, were extremely weak and took a lot of skill and effort to get the same or similar value to other classes. This led to a pretty big disparity in both class selection and just general build variety. The class overall update fixed this problem by completely revamping all of the talent trees. The old talent tree for every class was turned into one single branch of the new Revamp talent trees for each class, and every class got 2 additional branches that specialized in different things. For example, the Veteran class went from only having different variations of volley fire, which is a buff to their veterans' range attacks, to now having a support tree where they can buff allies' attack and basically scream at players to revive them, and a stealth and melee tree that focus on getting close and personal. Every single class got these new reworked talent trees, and the best part about them all is that with the points you get from leveling up to obtain new perks and bonuses, you're also allowed to go down every single talent tree and obtain talents from other different branches as well, letting you mix and match as much as you want. Now, under these new talent trees, you can still be a ranged-focused veteran, but also be a supporting class with melee capabilities, a stealthy assassin, or any other mix between the 3 skill trees, and the same goes for every other class. In fact, I would say that Veteran is probably the most boring of the class overall, simply because the Veteran's overall strength was weakened a bit in exchange for more versatility, while the other 3 classes, especially the Psyker, got a lot of buffs in their talent trees to help them catch up to the Veteran class. Ironically enough, Veteran is probably the weakest class right now, and Psyker is the strongest, the complete opposite of how it used to be before this patch. This update to all the talent trees has honestly revitalized a lot of my love for Darktide, and I'm having fun experimenting with all the different builds, and now I can finally feel a desire to finish leveling my Ogryn and to make a Zealot now to explore the other builds that I can make. Unfortunately, while this update was great, it still has its own fair share of issues, namely balancing. I kept writing this portion of review over and over again because I kept going too far in depth about the balancing issues, but honestly that's not what this video is about. This video is about whether or not the class overall update is good or not, and if you should come back to Darktide. So I'll keep this short and sweet and say that while balancing is definitely still an issue with veterans underperforming and psychers overperforming, overall every single class is viable in all difficulties, which I think is the most important part, unlike before where you had to run very specific gear and builds to make even one of the classes worth running in the higher difficulties. And that is absolutely great. Fat Shark just needs to do some additional tuning to the balancing of the game, but as long as every single class is viable in all difficulties, I'll be a happy reject. So if you're wondering if Darktide is worth getting into right now, I honestly think that this is probably the best time to get into the game. The gameplay has always been solid, and the class overall update injected a lot of new life into the game. While there's still other problems with the game like the lack of content and the current crafting system still being a pain to deal with, overall the game isn't in its best state since launch, and I highly encourage everyone to give the game a go again. It's available on Game Pass, so if you want to try it out there first while fully committing, that is always an option. Just beware that I don't believe that cross progression is officially supported yet. However, crossplay definitely is, so you can still play with your friends on other platforms. Thanks for watching the video, and if you want to see more Darktide gameplay and keep up to date about major Darktide news, be sure to subscribe and also follow my Twitch as well. I stream nearly every single day with a variety of games including Darktide. Also, you can subscribe to my other channel as well where I'll be focusing more on educational content such as guides, builds, and more whenever I stop being lazy, I suppose. Take care and have an awesome day, y'all.